Hi there, my name's Andy, and in this video we're going to be covering the easiest two chords to play on electric guitar. I'm going to be showing you what these chords enable you to do. We'll look at a couple of riffs that we can play using these chords, and also some sensible next steps to keep you going from there, especially if you're a total beginner. Now, I did say the easiest two chords to play on electric guitar, because these wouldn't be the first chords that I'd recommend we cover on acoustic guitar or on other instruments. These work really well on electric guitar, especially when we have a little bit of overdrive on our amplifiers to give us this rock sound, which I'll be coaching you a little bit on also. So let's have a look at these chords. So here's our first chord, which is the E5, also known as the E power chord, and with some overdrive on the amplifier, it can sound like this. Pretty rocking, really cool sound. If we move that first finger down a string and move our picking hand down a string, the second chord is just that, and that's the A5 power chord. Being able to play those two chords and change between them confidently is going to be the main focus of this lesson, but as I say, we're going to be doing lots with this because there's so much we can do on electric guitar in terms of what the right hand adds and getting the sound and things like that. So let's have a look at these two chords on their own. The first finger here is at the second fret of the fifth string. So string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 6. This would be fret 1, this is fret 2. And we're going to strum string 6 and 5 over here around where the middle pickup is, or in this area of your guitar. And it sounds like that. We need to strum that so that we get one sound from the two strings. So like this. When we first try it, we might be colliding with this string and then hitting the next string and then getting this kind of thing. We want to try and get one sound, one small swift motion just with the wrist, because we're only strumming two strings. Now, if we compare that to the full E major chord, which many beginners may have covered already, many people are familiar with this chord, it sounds very jangly, it sounds a lot less rock. And with the overdrive, which is this fuzz sound that the amplifiers add in, these two string chords, so these power chords, sound really huge. And they're really cool. To play the second chord, all we have to do is just move that first finger down a string, and this would be on string 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to strum, not the thickest two strings, but actually string 5 and 4. So just move that right hand from these two, move it a string down. And try and get that one sound with a swift motion. So first chord again, this is the E power chord, otherwise known as an E5. And then we also have the A5 or A power chord like this. A common question is that power chords can be played with 3 strings as well as 2, which would be played by a flat first finger. Now the thing here is it doesn't sound any different. It doesn't sound much different anyway. That compared with that. So we're just going to go with the 2-string version, which can be done with one finger for both of them. But the 3-string version of power chords isn't called another name because it's the same note we're adding. So that's a little bit higher stuff there. But one really cool thing that we can do here is really work on your right hand. We're keeping the chord hand simple here so that we can really focus on making the most of what electric guitars can do with the right hand. Namely, the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the difference between just this strum and something called palm muting. Oh yeah! That's that heavy rock sound which I'm sure you're familiar with, and it's all done with the right hand. There's nothing different I'm doing here. We do need a little bit of overdrive on our amplifiers, as I say, and I have a full video on that which I'll link to just here and also in the description below, talking you through amplifier settings, different guitars. If your guitar doesn't quite look like this, we've got a video for that, don't worry about it. But yeah, what we're going to do for this palm muting to get this heavy, chunky chug sound basically, is put the outside of the palm of your hand just here. This is the bridge of a guitar, and we're going to put your hand just here. Make sure the outside of the palm of your hand is just here, but there's a sweet spot to it. So we're going to do that little strum again, but actually touch those strings with the outside of the palm of your hand. So my hand is laying flat. And rather than being like this and letting those strings be open, we're playing those notes like I just demoed, and that sweet spot needs to be kind of found and kind of felt. There's a feel to playing guitar which we need to start to be aware of, but we can also go off the sound too. So put simply, if you're too far this way and you do palm muting, it sounds like this. It's totally muted. If you're too far this way, so sort of away from the guitar neck, it doesn't do any sound. You're not on the strings at all, so you're not influencing the sound with your muting. So what we're going to do here is just get this kind of palm dampening. It's probably a better term for it. It's not how it's commonly known, but we're dampening the strings. And it makes them sound really huge. Now there's a feel that we need to be able to do this compared to just strumming normally, and to be able to go from one to the other, which is what a lot of riffs do, and it means we don't have to think about the chord hand too much, because all the sounds, all the good stuff's going to be happening with the right hand or in the dominant hand if you're kind of left-handed. So what we're going to go for is one strum open, and then we're going to do the rest of the bar, which is a measure of time, I'll talk about that as we go through, with palm muting. And the way we're going to do it, we're going to do one beat of the open strum, and then we're going to palm mute 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you need more help with bars and beats, I have a full beginner's course explaining all this stuff, if anything of this has kind of caught your attention and you think you might benefit from it. So what we're going for, first of all, is this. This is the simple option, exercise number 1. So we have a normal strum of those 2 strings, and then mute for 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if we do this in a loop, which all the best guitar riffs do, we go 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. We should then get used to doing that same thing on the A chord, and we're going to strum 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what we're really aiming for is 2 bars of that on the E chord and then 2 bars of A. 2 bars of E and 2 bars of A, which would sound like this. 1, 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4, and 1, 2 and 3 and 4, and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's have a go at that together, and once you can start doing this, you should aim to do this for at least a minute. And aim to do it for around a minute to give yourself that time to really practice this and really get into the groove, as we'd call it. So join in with me with your electric guitar, and we're going to play this E5 power chord, just as we demoed. Join in 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and change to A, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 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 2 and 3 and pause there. If you had any trouble with changing chord, it's a really good idea just to do some chord changes like this, just to practice it, but there's no substitution for just going straight to it. Everything that we learn for the first time that we play it, it's going to take a few attempts to sound right. That's just something that we have to get used to when we're learning music. A cool thing to be aware of at this point is the technique where we do this same thing, but we do something called the Rock Chicka, which is getting this noise rather than the muted one. And this is again going to work the right hand with the same 2 chords. So what we're going to do here is do that same open chord, but we're actually going to mute 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what we're doing here is we're learning to tame the beast of electric guitar, especially if you got your gain really high. This is something that a lot of people really struggle with. And when you're improving, say you can play 10 rock riffs and you think you're really advancing on guitar, but still the basics aren't sounding right. They're just not sounding how you want them to sound. This is a huge thing for it. It's paying more attention to the sound and also paying attention to your rhythm. So this will be exercise 2, and this is muting with this Rock Chicka sound. Let me demo it first of all. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now there's two ways that we can create this Rock Chicka, which is very Malcolm Young, by the way. He was the rhythm guitarist in AC/DC. He pioneered this technique for these kind of rock rhythms. He's the king of this kind of stuff. And we can create that sound by muting with this hand, with the chord playing hand. Or we can also do it with the right hand, just by doing what we did before, but a little bit too far this way so that we mute it. And it's a good idea to have a go at doing both, because we need to be careful that we're not getting loads of unwanted noise and really taming the beast of electric guitar. So strum, put the other 3 fingers down, fingers 2, 3 and 4, flat and very lightly on the strings. And then we're going to go 1, and with this hand, even if it's just this hand, we still get this same thing happening. This same Chicka technique happens in Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll, which would be a fantastic riff to learn after doing this sort of stuff, because most of it is all on that A chord. It's basically all this same stuff, okay? So that would be something to check out after this lesson. But here we're going 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and then A. Give that a go along to me and join in 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and change to A. And back to E. And pause there. It's likely that you'll find one of them easier than the other. Just from your experience and what you've done before, or which one you naturally are drawn to. We've got the palm muting, like the chugs, and then we've got this, what we call a Rock Chicka, or I've heard it called a Rock Chicka before, but the Malcolm Young technique of. And this is just pioneered by so many musicians and guitar teachers all over the world because it's so good for this rock rhythm sound and to develop that sense of internal rhythm which makes you just play better naturally without even thinking about it. So my number 1 recommended riff with this style would absolutely be Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. That's got another couple of chords in it, and they would also be the other chords to kind of learn if we are going for this thing. We may be already aware of like the standard G major chord, but the rock way of playing that tends to be like this, and even just with 2 fingers, either just like this or just like this, probably like this would be the best way. Some people even play that root note on an electric guitar with their thumb and play a G like this. All sound exactly the same. But the important thing with this one would be to mute string 5 with the underside of that middle finger. The other chord would be the D major chord, and that would enable you to play the whole song Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. Another great riff with this kind of thing would be TNT, also by AC/DC. This technique enables you to play loads of songs that aren't AC/DC, but they're just the best example where you can learn loads of riffs by the same band and really get into a style of music while you're also learning kind of the basics of rhythm guitar here. So TNT by AC/DC adds that E major and A major chord just with 1 note here. My final recommendation, if you've enjoyed all of that, is to check out my electric guitar starter course. There's a few videos for free on YouTube, so I recommend you just get started there and click on that link I'll leave on the screen. If you need more help with this, just check out my Andy Guitar YouTube channel and you'll see loads of similar videos. I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.